So good morning, everyone. Again, it's nice to see all of you. So we will start as usual with quieting our mind for a few moments by watching the breath. Then we can try to think, contemplate. May I ask coming here together and engaging, listening, discussions, reflections. Become cause and conditions to actualize and fully develop loving kindness, compassion, both to the mind and the wisdom. And may it become cause and condition to achieve fully awakened state, so we can be most and greatest help and benefit to all sentient beings. Okay. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye chodang sogi sonam changchu badu dani kya. Lagi chunye gibe sonam ge. Dula penche sangye lupa. Sangye chodang sogi sonam changchu badu dani. Lagi chunye gibe sonam ge. Dula penche sangye lupa. So we have been discussing the stages of the path to enlightenment, and within that, we are on the sections on the practice of Mahayana or the Great Scope. And in relation to that, according to the verses that we have been trying on the basis of that, how to generate the awakening mind of Bodhicitta. And within that, particularly two different methods, by using the 7 point of cause and effect, we finished that. And then the second technique of the meditation, equalizing, exchanging self with others, we are on that sections. And within that sections, there are 5 points in that meditations. And first is the meditation on equalizing self with others. Second, meditation on shortcoming or selfish attitude. Third, meditation on the benefit of cherishing for others. And fourthly, by understanding how how selfish attitude is the very root of all our suffering and problems, and how cherishing for the attitude of cherishing for others is the very root of our own happiness, others' happiness, and cause of all the virtues enlightenment. Then with that understanding, then trying to practicing and meditating on trying to exchange the attitude. So change the attitude from being too much selfish to being cherishing others. At the moment, we overly cherish ourselves, and that become problems and cause of problem and cause of suffering for ourselves and to others. And so trying to exchange that attitude, and in relation to that, Shantideva in his Guide to Boso Way of Life, he actually gives quite nice exercise, which I am not going to go, but we have gone before, when we were studying the Shantideva's Guide to Boso Way of Life, and it is in chapter 8 on meditations, and later part of that chapters, where he gives us some exercise, how you visualize your old self that is full of selfish attitude, self-centeredness, and then you visualize your new self, which is less selfish, less self-centered, together with the rest of the sentient beings, and then practicing to your old selfish attitude, looking at that with training your mind to look. It is an exercise. You do your exercise in your mind and looking at that old selfish attitude, treating that with a lot of jealousy, competitiveness, and so forth. And by doing that kind of exercise, then, it is like putting ourselves in the shoes of others, and through that we understand how it is. So how we feel, how does one feel when someone acts you with a lot of jealousy? How someone treats you with a lot of competitiveness and all of that, because normally out of selfish attitude, we treat others like that. And so it is a way of, it's an exercise that he does. So through that kind of exercise, we try to, transform and change the attitude of from being too selfish to non-too selfish, from being too selfish to being more cherishing others, more concern, more care, and more empathy towards others. And so that is the, and then also another exercise, another technique, meditations to transform that attitude is through the practice of Tonglen, through the practice of Tonglen, or taking and giving. The practice of Tonglen or taking and giving is you can say it is an exercise, it is a method, it is a meditations to learn to exchange that attitude, and to cultivate loving kindness, compassions, to improve loving kindness, compassions, as well as it is a practice to cultivate a strong courage and confidence, courage and confidence to deal with others' problem and suffering, the courage and confidence to take on others' problem and suffering on yourself, the courage and confidence to be able to share and give whatever we have, something that we can share, something we can give, and so it is a training to train our mind to be more courageous and more confident in that. At the moment, due to lack of courage and confidence, we are unable to do that, Sometimes we want to help someone, but we are unable to help. Why? Because we don't have enough courage and confidence. We are fearful, scared and fearful. Same thing, even though we see there is a need to relieve of someone's pain and suffering, and sometimes maybe, we have the ability, resource to do that, but sometimes even we see that and even we want to do, but in actions, we are unable to do that. And a lot of time, the reason is that we become very fearful. One of the example, as Shantideva give, in his guys, let's say someone is, in the needs of help, and they are experiencing some certain level of pain and suffering because of not having the needs, the resource they need. And then we might have the resource to be able to help that person, to be able to reduce the pain of that person's. But we're afraid to do that because we think, if I give, what will be left for me? Fear. We have that fear. If I share that, if I give that, what will happen to me? What will be left for me? So that fear stops us from sharing and giving, and thereby reducing someone's pain and sufferings and problems. And that comes from fear. A lot of those fear, and the fear comes because we don't have enough courage at the moment. If we have strong courage, we will be less fearful of that. So therefore, the Bodhisattvas, as Shantideva says, so that is one. That is how the selfish attitude will think. Selfish attitude will think, lead to that fear. What will happen to me? That become more important than what is happening to that person's. And then Bodhisattvas, if I enjoy this whatever resource, what is there left for me to help others? That is the Bodhisattva's attitude. If I experience this resource for myself, what will be there left to help and reduce the pain and suffering of others? Such attitude comes because of incredible courage and confidence, And so therefore, the thought is more others than oneself, And so that kind of attitude, so trying to, our attitude and the Bodhisattva attitude is very different, and so trying to transform and change. And that, again, the practice of Tonglen is one particular helpful technique and method to do that too. So in relation to the practice of Tonglen, the practice of Tonglen is, of course, exchanging self with others. That particular meditation practice is very essence of mind training, mind training, or lojongs, as well as a very essence of the Bodhisattva's practice and the Bodhisattva's path, the teachings. And among that, the practice of Tonglen is, again, very hard of the mind training, very hard of the mind training. And so in relation to that, here, if we go to the LC verse number 95, where it says, "And thus, perfect, pure, compassionate Guru, I seek your blessing that all negative karmas, obscuration, and suffering of mother mother transmigrator beings may without exception ripen upon me right now, and that by giving my happiness and virtues to others, all transmigrator beings may experience happiness. So here it is a requesting for making a strong request to the pure compassionate Guru to bless us so that we can perfect and complete and perfect the practice of Tonglen, or taking and giving, by taking on others, all others' problem and suffering, as well as the cause of the problem and suffering, that are the negative karmas, as well as the very root of those negative karma, that's the delusion and obscuration on ourselves. And then giving and sharing all our happiness, all our virtues, all our positive qualities, and sharing and giving to other sentient beings. So that is the practice of Tonglen, and it's again, Shantideva explained that same in the Guides to the Buddha's Way of Life, Tonglen, as well as Nagarjuna in his Precious Garland, where there is again prayer and practice where he says, may I be used by all sentient beings as they want, as they wish, just as like the earth. May I be like the earth. May I like be the air. May I like be the heat. May I like be the water. So all where individual different sentient beings use for whatever their needs, all these elements. So, may I be like that, So not only praying, but also trying to practice to be that, And may I hold others, as even precious than my own life, And may I hold others more important and precious than myself. And may all the suffering of others ripen on me. May all my happiness ripen on others. So again, Nagarjuna also in his Precious Garland. So these are the source from the Indian resource on these teachings, and those, Nagarjuna also. And then, also Nagarjuna in that, again, he make a prayer and again practice, may I not achieve enlightenment until I lead every sentient being to the enlightenment. And such are incredible, incredible, powerful, courageous attitude. Incredible, courageous attitude, For us, most time, let me take care of myself and then I will take care of others, But, and because, we don't have strong courage at the moment, that is why, but someone like Bodhisattvas, as Nagarjuna made that, they have so much courage, that may everyone be taken care of well first, and may I be the last to be take care of that, May everyone achieve the happiness. May everyone achieve the enlightenment. And then only later, such is incredible courage. So these are those Nagarjuna's teachings, and Shantideva's, those are the source of those teachings that you find in Lamrim, including here, the verse number 95 on the practice of Tonglen, So the Tonglen practice, it use certain visualizations as a part of the training, certain imaginations, certain visualizations, and and using the breath as a vehicle for that practice as well. So again, Tong means giving, and Len means taking, giving and taking, or taking and giving. I think in Tibetan, giving comes first, but in English translation, it is normally taking and giving. It comes the other way around, but I don't think it doesn't matter so much. So Tonglen practice is a very powerful practice, as I mentioned very beginning, to develop the courage. At the moment, we don't have courage to experience our own suffering, our own problem, our own pain. We try to escape from our problems. If there is a way that we can escape from our problems, our pain, our suffering, we will do that. We will escape. We will avoid. We will try to do anything to keep distant from any problems, our own problem, our own pain, our suffering. And so that means we don't have courage to endure the hardship, the problem and sufferings of our own problem, our own suffering, our own pain. In this practice, not only you are, willing, and not only you have the courage to experience your own problem, your own sufferings, but on top of that, you have the courage to take on all other sufferings, all others' problems, all others' pains, and the cause of those problems and suffering. It requires a lot of courage to be able to do that. To do that, not only you are, strong enough, not only you are strong enough to deal and to kind of, accept and to go through the whatever problem, hardship, difficulty that might manifest in our life. But on top of that, your mind is so strong and courageous that you are willing to take on others' problems and suffering on yourself. All others' problems, suffering on yourself, as well as the cause of all this suffering and problems. That required a lot of courage. And to be able to reach that point, first we have to train our mind, It doesn't come like that, From being not so courageous to being so courageous like bodhisattvas, It doesn't come like that. So you have to train your mind. So Tonglen is part of that training. Tonglen is part of that training. Being okay, training your mind to be okay, familiar, and strong, and courage to take on others' pain and suffering, even if it's in a imagination visualization at the moment. Getting used to that, the idea of to able to do that. And same with, sharing your virtues, your positive qualities, energies, and your happiness, not only just sharing small resource, not only just small part of your happiness, not only small part of your virtues, but to share all the virtues, all the happiness, all the good things to each and every sentient beings. Again, that also, to be able to do that also, we need a big heart, strong heart, courageous heart, compassionate and kind heart, And of course, we are nowhere near that in terms of in reality. In reality, we are nowhere near that. But if we don't train our mind, we will never come to that state. So through training the mind, then slowly, you become more and more courageous. more and more strong, more and more. And so through that, then eventually we can come to a state where you have no hesitations and no problems without any, when there is someone needs and when you have resource to help, you will be able to do that without any hesitation, without any fear, hesitation, without any thought. That is how the bodhisattvas are able to do that. But they reach that point after going through so much practice and meditation over the time, by training their mind over the times. So that is the idea, is to train our mind so that we can reach that state like the bodhisattvas, so that we can in action, in reality, that we can actually really do it, not just imagining or visualizing, but we're actually in actual actions, we are able to do that. But before we reach that state of mind, then of course we need the training. And so this is the part of the training, in many of the teachings, they give advice, if we are not familiar with that practice, and if we have some kind of resistance, fear, if we have, as you do practice, trying to take on others' sufferings, pain, and problem on yourself, on top of your own problem, your own suffering, your own pain. If you feel fearful about that, if you feel, if there is some kind of resistance because there's fear and all of that, then the advice is to start with yourself. The practice of taking and giving with yourself. Start with yourself. And in terms of starting with ourselves, in any of the scripture, they don't say, to visualize yourself. But, I personally find helpful, to visualize your kind of another yourself in front of you, So, you visualize yourself in front of you, and like it is two of you, one of your replica of yourself. And then, think of the sufferings that you might be experiencing in next hours, because we have the potential for the suffering to manifest anytime. It could be health problems. It could be, emotional, physical health problem. It could be emotional health problems. It could be the, suffering of heat, suffering of cold. It could be suffering of, anything that the potential there that could manifest in hours. So you think of that, and then trying to take that problem that might be coming in 1 hour, take on yourself. That is going to experience the self in front. From that, you take the suffering on yourself. As you breathe in, taking the pain and the sufferings in the form of dark energies, as with the breath, as you breathe in, and then as it go through your nostril, from the nose down to the heart, and then you can visualize your selfish attitude at your heart and destroying that selfish attitude. Then you can think of suffering that we might be experiencing, tonight. And then we can think of suffering that we might be experiencing tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, next 10 years, next 20 years, next 30 years. All the suffering that we might be experiencing in many future lives, all the future life. So you can think of all the suffering of yourself that you might be experiencing in the future, all of them yourself. And the cause of all the suffering, not only the suffering, but the negative karmas, the potential to produce those sufferings. So you take all this potential, the negative karma that could produce the sufferings on yourself. Not only the negative karma, all the delusions that create the negative karma. So then all the delusions, take on all the delusions on yourself. And not only the delusions, then even the most subtle obscurations that obscure from us being omniscient or fully enlightened. Taking all the sufferings, suffering and cause of all this suffering in that way. And then, as you and destroying your selfish attitude, reducing your selfish attitude, destroying your selfish attitude. And as you breathe out, you visualize all your virtues, all your realizations, all your happiness, all your goodness, positiveness in the form of white light, white energy, together with the breath as you breathe out. And then, sending to the self that is imagined in front of you and giving him all the happiness, all the solution to all the problem, solution to all the sufferings, and giving them all the happiness, strong and good health, strong and good health, mm, giving the job that not only give you a good payment, but something you enjoy doing it, something you like it, someone you are happy about it, and then the happiness of, warm, cool happiness, happiness that comes through having delicious food, drinks, having the happiness that comes through, having a good relationship, families, friends, companions, at workplace, everywhere, So all the happiness that we look for, that's all the happiness we, so thinking of giving all those happiness, not only all those happiness, but, the inner happiness of peaceful mind, satisfied, totally contentment mind, being totally satisfied and content mind, peaceful, calm mind, and then, sending and giving, um, all the positive karma, that have the potential to produce all the happiness. And not only the positive karma, because those potential, once they have been, experience the result, again, is gone. So, but then to give the virtues that continue to create more and more positive karma, and especially virtuous mind, virtuous realization, loving kindness, compassion, renunciations, bodhicitta, wisdom realizing emptiness, that have path, 10 bhumis, giving all these realizations. And with all these realizations, with each of those realizations, as your realization get higher and higher on the path, on the bhumis, your state of inner peace and happiness increases, multiply, stronger and stronger, So giving all this different level of happiness, Then the ultimate happiness of fully enlightenment, fully enlightenment, that state that has fulfilled all the purpose of oneself and others, all the potential to bring the greatest happiness to oneself and others. And so leading to that, so you do that. And then once you are familiar with that practice regarding yourself, then you start with someone who is very close in your life, someone who is dear to you, it could be your father, it could be your mother, it could be your children, it could be your friends, it could be your grandparent, it could be your wife, husband, partner, whoever, or it could be someone, another one. So doesn't matter who, but someone you feel very close, very dear, you visualize that person. You visualize that person in front of you, and then think of reflect, contemplate on what they are going through in their life, you know. Some of the struggles they might be going through, some of the challenges they might be going through, some of the hardship they might be going through, you know. It could be physical hardship, physical health issues, problems. It could be emotional, you know, hardship, problems, situations that they are dealing with, you know. Or it could be something that is related with their, you know, financial state, job, you know, difficulty to have, I mean, basic needs, you know, difficulty with that. Or it could be, you know, some problem with the relationship, you know, whether in, and you know, of course, when we talk a relationship is a big, you know, it could be between children and parents, it could be between the partners, wife, husband, it could be between friends, it could be between your colleagues, everywhere, you know. So we are dealing with some of those problems, you know. Everyone's dealing some problems, you know. Some days we have better relations, sometimes we have not so great relationship that affect our minds, you know, our lives. So, you know, maybe they might be going through, you know, whatever, you know. Or sometimes, you know, they might be dealing with some other things, you know. So basically, you know, something that is affecting their mind and their life, you know, making them unhappy or having some problem, difficulties, you know, pain, suffering, whatever that, you know. Try to think of that, try to reflect, contemplate that. As you reflect, contemplate on that, you know, until you feel like it is your own problem, your own sufferings, your own pain. Until you feel that it's your own pain, your own problem, your own suffering, that it becomes so unbearable, so unbearable, so unbearable. And it becomes so unbearable that you want to, you know, get rid of it immediately. You want to get rid of it immediately. So first try to feel that, reflect, contemplate, and try to feel that feeling of that person's problem, suffering, pain, something as very unbearable. And through that, by seeing unbearable, then you want to free them, release them from that problem and that pain and that suffering immediately, you know, as soon as possible. So try to generate that compassion, okay? Because that is one of the part of this practice is to develop, to increase, to develop, to increase and improve the sense of loving kindness and compassion. So when you reflect, contemplate, and you feel that, that is the compassion, you know, the compassionate mind. When you feel their pain, their suffering unbearable, and when you want to really release and free them from that pain and suffering, that mind, that state of mind is the compassion mind, you know. And so once you feel that very compassionate mind wanting to relieve of whatever their pain and whatever their immediate pain, immediate problem, immediate sufferings, then you do the visualizations. You know, then you can think of, again, as I mentioned, then as you breathe in, you can imagine, visualize, and think all their sufferings. Not only the immediate pain and suffering, but also all other sufferings, all other pains, all other problems in the form of dark energies, together with the breath as you breathe in. Go through your nostril, and then at the heart, you can visualize a black dot that represents selfish attitude, and kind of destroying that selfish attitude, and transforming into loving kindness, compassions, you know. So you do that, first taking all their sufferings. And then not only all their sufferings, then the cause of all their suffering, all the delusions, all the negative karma. And not only negative karma, then Because even you have taken negative karma, if you have the delusion, they can create more negative karma. And so therefore, you not only take negative karma, now next, you take all their delusions on yourself. And not only all the delusions, then you take on even the subtle obscuration, the obscuration for the omniscient. And all taking on yourself. And as you take them, you can visualize and with a total convictions. So, that they are free from all their pain and sufferings. And it might be helpful for certain, of course, it can depend on different individuals. If we can handle, for example, if you are taking the suffering of heat of someone because someone of heat, you can feel like you are feeling the heat. When you take the suffering of someone of suffering of coldness, you feel like your whole body is feeling that cold. When you take the suffering of someone's starvations, like food and hunger, hunger and starvations, then you try to experience that you are actually experiencing that suffering of that hunger, starvations. And if then when you take the sufferings of others' fear, then again experiencing yourself as being in that fearful state, having taken so whatever suffering you are trying to take on yourself, trying to feel that pain and suffering, if you can. If it's too much, if it becomes too much overwhelming, then you don't have to do that. Okay. So I think it depends on individuals, then as you are feeling whatever suffering you are taking, and actually as though you are experiencing that's the pain yourself, that's suffering yourself. If it becomes too overwhelming, too much, then you don't have to do that, But if you don't feel that, if it doesn't overwhelm too much, then to feel that and to really feel the pain and suffering has really come on yourself, and you are really experiencing yourself, and you are really experiencing on behalf of them, and they are free from that, and you are experiencing yourself, then that can become more powerful in your practice of Tonglen. Then the practice of Tonglen can become more powerful if we can do that. And so, and then as you breathe out, as you, then all our virtues, all our happiness, all our positive qualities, good qualities, in the form of white light and nectar, white energy, together with the breath, as you breathe out, and transforming into whatever happiness, transforming into whatever happiness that person is looking for, So if they are looking for, because they are suffering of heat, so they are looking for a cool energy so giving them cool. If they are hot, they are cold, then you are giving them heat. If they are, sick, then giving them medicine and cure, if they are mentally unhappy, giving them mental happiness. And if they are dissatisfied, giving them the content and satisfied mind, so whatever immediate happiness and solutions to their problem, giving them that solution, solving the problems, giving them whatever happiness, comfort, physical comfort, mental comfort, emotional comfort, joy, happiness, not only that, then, also sending them and giving them the positive karma, sending them, giving them all the virtues, all the virtues. And again, as I've mentioned before, such as, the virtues of the positive mind, such as loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta mind, wisdom, realizing emptiness, the practice of six perfections, the 5 path, 10 bhumis, and eventually the happiness of fully enlightenment. So again, sending them and giving them. So we can do that. And you can visualize they actually really receive. You have given all of that, you have sent and give all of that, and then they receive all the happiness, all the positive karma, all the virtues, the fully enlightenment, and you can, and then you generate a strong joyfulness for having. So we try to, each time when you actually visualize taking on other suffering and cause of suffering on yourself, and you visualize that you have really taken yourself and they have been free from all of that, then you feel great joyfulness. You try to remain in a great joyfulness for having been able to do that, for doing this practice, and for being able to relieve them and free them from suffering and cause of suffering. For having been able to do that, then you try to, remain in the joyfulness, rejoicing and blissful and joyful, thinking how wonderful, how grateful, how wonderful that I have been able to do that. And same thing when we send all the happiness, all the virtues, all the positive karmas, everything's, then again, generating a great joyfulness and rejoicing. How wonderful that I have been able to give, I have been able to send all the happiness, all the virtues, all the positive qualities, and them receiving all of them, them being happy, receiving the happiness, all the happiness, cause of happiness. And so trying to keep in that rejoiceful, blissful, joyful state of mind. So we do that. And then you visualize someone who is more neutral, in your life, whom we don't share a good relation or neither bad relationship, So again, we can do same, even though we might not be aware of all their suffering and all their problems individually, but more or less we all have same problem, same sufferings. More or less, we being all in same samsara, we being under the control of delusion, negative karma, we have more or less same problems, same sufferings. So, they also have same, health issues, financial issues, relationship issues, and, they all have, because we still have delusions, our mind being dissatisfied, unhappy, wanting more, wanting something else, something more, all of that. So basically, we can have general idea how everyone is more or less going through the same problem, same suffering. Some might have a little bit more particular suffering more than others in certain time, in certain part of the life. But basically, in general, more or less same. Fear, worry, anxieties, so we can think of that. And then, of course, also delusion. So again, think of that. And then again, just like we did with someone who is very close to us, again, trying to think their pain, suffering. Give enough time to reflect, contemplate, and really feel it, their pain and suffering and problem. We have to give enough time to really feel that pain and suffering, And then as though when you feel that pain and suffering, then trying to feel again same sense of unbearable, unbearable. So when you feel this unbearable feeling of that pain and suffering, then the wish to free them, to free the persons or sentient beings from that pain and suffering can come naturally when it becomes so unbearable. the wish to free, the wish to, liberate from that pain and suffering arises, and that is the compassion. Try to feel that compassion state of mind as much as possible, and then you do the same again. As you breathe in, again you visualize taking all their suffering, cause of suffering, the negative karma, delusion, all the obscuration on yourself, then being relieved from all their suffering, free from all the suffering and cause of suffering. And as you breathe out, sending all your happiness, virtues, all the positive qualities, goodness, transforming in whatever their needs, and transforming all their happiness, cause of happiness, temporary happiness, ultimate happiness, and fully enlightenment. Again, as you take on their suffering, again, you try to rejoice for having been able to do that. And as you give and send the joy and happiness, again, you try to feel the joy, rejoice, and again, try to be in that state as much as possible. And then again, we visualize someone who have conflict, someone you dislike. Conflict, of course, doesn't have to be necessarily personal, Sometimes maybe we have dislike for a certain figure in the world, Not necessarily we have a personal issue with them, but because of their positions and because of their attitude, because of their behavior, because of their actions. So, someone we have difficulty disliking someone, you can visualize that. So this will be more difficult, but then again, thinking same thing, they are just like ourselves who want to be happy and who doesn't want suffering. No different from us in that sense. And not only that, they are also struggling with their own problem, their own issues, their own challenges, their own suffering, just like ourselves. If not more than ourselves, they are also equally going through a lot of pain, a lot of challenges, difficult and suffering. Again, as we talk about different challenges, different problems, different issues, physical, emotional, mental, and all of that. So we try to think, again, try to reflect, contemplate, give enough time to really feel their pain and sufferings. Give enough time, instead of trying to move very quickly to the next stages of the practice or meditations. Give enough time to reflect, enough time to really feel their pain and suffering. And if we give enough time to feel their pain and suffering, and if you really started to feel their pain and suffering, as much as we dislike them, you will also feel for them. As much as you dislike them, at the same time, you will feel for them because you can feel their pain and suffering so strong, so unbearable. And so if you can feel their pain and suffering by giving enough time to really stay your state of mind in enough time and really feel that, then, again, it becomes so unbearable because it's so strong, it's so intense, it's so powerful, the pain and suffering. And the problem is, then, the wish to see them being free from that pain and suffering arises. And the wish to see them free from that pain, unbearable pain and suffering, and then wanting to free them, wanting to liberate them from whatever pain, whatever suffering, whatever challenges, problem they are going through, So allow that compassion mind to arise and hold on that compassion mind as strong as possible. As strong as possible, as long as possible. And once you feel that compassionate mind wanting to free them from their pain and suffering, then you do the visualization. Imagine as you breathe in, taking on their pain, suffering, their problem, cause of their pain and suffering, such as the negative karma, the delusions, and the obscurations on yourself. And think with total convictions that they are being free from all their pain, all their suffering, all their problems, all their challenges. And yourself receiving all this suffering and pain, experiencing yourself, so they don't experience on behalf of them, and all coming on yourself instead of them experiencing it. And then destroying your self attitude, transforming into loving kindness, compassion, positive. And then again you rejoice. So wonderful that I have been able to do this practice. So wonderful and grateful that I'm able to do this practice. I'm able to take their suffering, cause of suffering, on myself, so they can be free of that. So you try to remain in that state of, rejoicing, joyfulness, blissfulness as much as possible. Then as you breathe out, you try to send all your virtues, all the positive qualities, all the happiness, all the excellent qualities in the form of white light, energy, and transforming it into whatever their needs are, transforming it into whatever the solutions, needs, happiness, joy, and fulfilling all their, giving them, strong and healthy, strong and healthy life, peaceful life, happy life, joyful life, being friendly with everyone, being kind and friendly and generous with everyone's, nice with everyone's, being gentle with everyone's. So, and thereby they themselves are happy and surrounding are happy, giving them inner peace, satisfactions, content, and then then all the positive karma and all the virtues, and especially the virtues of the virtuous mind, such as, again, loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta, might, and wisdom, the practice of six training, 5 path, 10 bhumis, and so forth, and thereby guiding and leading them to a higher level of their more and more high level on their path, thereby increasing the level of inner joy, peacefulness, eventually leading them to fully enlightenment and happiness of fully enlightenment. And so you try to do that. And once you are able to do that, then you visualize all sentient beings, then all the sentient beings surrounding them, all the sentient beings surrounding them. And then together you can do, then you can think of, suffering of all sentient beings in general, all sentient beings are experiencing at least one of the sufferings from the 3 sufferings. Many of them experiencing all the 3 sufferings, suffering of pain, suffering of change, suffering of all pervasive. Or some of them, even though they are not experiencing all of them, some of them are experiencing 2 of them. At least all of them are experiencing at least one of the suffering, the suffering of all pervasives. At least everyone is experiencing the suffering of all pervasive, 24 hours, all the time. So we can think of their pain and suffering. Not only their pain and suffering, the potential they have to, even who are not experiencing suffering or pain at the moment, or suffering with change at the moment, they have the negative karma, they have the potential to produce the suffering or change, suffering or pain any moment, any times. So again, just not being free from all this potential itself is a suffering in a way, So then, by thinking on that, all the pain and suffering of that, and the potential of all the sufferings, then again, try to feel how unbearable, how miserable it is when you are in that state of beings, when you are in that, under the one of the sufferings, And so again, try to give enough time to feel the pain and sufferings, and how miserable, how painful, how unbearable it is to be in that state, that suffering state. And with that understanding, reflection, contemplation, that understanding and feeling, then allow the compassion to arise, the wish to see them free from all the pain, all the suffering, the wish to, liberate and free them from all the pain and suffering. And so, again, give enough time to allow to feel that pain, that compassionate mind. And why holding that with that compassionate mind, then again, as you breathe in, you can think, visualize, imagine, taking all their suffering, individual suffering and general sufferings of all sentient beings, and in the form of dark energies, enter through your nostril as you breathe in, destroying your selfish attitude, self-centeredness, and then transforming loving kindness, compassions. And you do same things, not only the suffering, the cause of suffering, all the negative karma, not only the negative karma, the very root of all the karma, all the delusions, not only all the delusions, but even the imprint left by the delusion, the subtle obscurations, taking all of them on yourself and thinking, imagine, visualizing, they all are free from all of those suffering and cause of all the suffering, all the obscuration completely. And yourself experience all of them yourself. And then having done that, then you try to rejoice. How wonderful, how grateful, how wonderful that I have been able to free them, liberate them from all the suffering and cause of suffering. How wonderful I have been able to do this practice. May I be able to continue to do this practice continuously again and again. Rejoice, experience the bliss, joy of being able to do that, and then make a strong determinations to be able to do the practice again in the futures. Not only the practice through just visualizations, to be able to practice in actions in the futures as well, to really free their pain and sufferings, to be able to really take on ourselves, without any hesitation, but instead with great joyfulness, without any fear, but with a great courage and confidence. So make a strong prayer, dedications, determinations, develop strong determination to do that. Then, as we breathe out, then you visualize all your happiness, all your virtues, all your positive qualities, all the goodness, all the positive goodness in the form of, again, together with the breath, white energy light, and transforming into whatever the needs of individual sentient beings, whatever their needs, fulfilling whatever their needs, all their comfort, physical comfort, emotional, mental comfort, all their needs, physical needs, emotional, mental needs, giving them all the happiness, all the joy, all the peace. Whatever, and then not only giving them temporary happiness, but, the cause of happiness, all the virtues, positive karma, all the virtues state of minds, all the lamrim realizations, especially, pure renunciation, bodhicitta mind, and wisdom realizing emptiness, as well as the practice of six perfections, the five path, the bodhisattva five path, 10 bhumis, leading them to the highest level of those path, and eventually leading them to fully enlightenment. And so you can imagine, visualize, they all achieve enlightenment. They all achieve and receive the happiness of the ultimate happiness of fully enlightenment. And again, try to rejoice. Try to rejoice, being able to provide them, send them, give them all the happiness, cause of happiness, and to guide and lead them to fully enlightenment. And rejoice, feel very joyful, blissful, and make strong determinations to be able to do again the practice again and again. How wonderful that we have been able to practice. May I be able to practice this again and again, continue to work with my mind again and again like that. And we make prayer to be able to do that. And make prayer and develop a strong determination, not only do that just through visualizations and imaginations, but may I be able to do that in actions, in reality, in the futures. So that is how one try to. So that is when you do the more kind of extensive, when you apply more kind of extensive taking and giving, but of course, sometimes if you want to do just one individuals, you can focus on one individuals, and then you can apply on all other sentient beings later, But if we are really training to develop this, if you follow more kind of systematic and more powerful way, then it is always good to start with either yourself or someone who is very close to you, which is easier to do that, and then someone who is more neutral, and then trying to do with someone whom we have conflict or whom we dislike, and then eventually embracing all the sentient beings in that way. Then that practice can become more effective and more powerful, more effective to develop the loving kindness, bodhicitta, loving kindness, compassion, and to develop bodhicitta mind. So as we do this practice, Tonglen, then your loving kindness, compassion increases and intensify and become stronger and stronger. Taking, by reflecting on others' suffering and taking on their suffering, is the compassion. You are developing the compassionate mind or improving the compassionate mind by thinking of their happiness or lack of their happiness and wanting to lead them to the happiness or state of happiness. That is the loving kindness mind. And so each time you do that, then we are, developing, cultivating the loving kindness, compassion more stronger and stronger and stronger. So once with that, we have very strong, slowly, strong compassion and bodhicitta mind, loving kindness and strong compassion might cultivate or manifest or develop. So even though we have such a, wonderful state of mind, without any hesitations, without any fear, not only no fear, no hesitation, but with incredible courage, confidence, and joyfulness, and wanting to, liberate others' suffering and take the suffering on yourself as well as their cause, wanting to give them all the happiness and cause of happiness by yourself. Even though we have that such a powerful, incredible state of mind, such an incredible, powerful, loving kindness, compassion mind, but can we liberate all sentient beings from all their suffering, cause of suffering, and lead them to all the happiness and cause of happiness? At this point, even though we have that mind, it's not possible, because we ourselves is no different from their state. We ourselves are lost in the samsara, just like themselves. We ourselves is confused, just as they are. We ourselves is under the influence and control of delusions and the karma, just as they are. So therefore, as much as we want to help them to do that, but with present unenlightened state we are in this similar situation with them, the help and benefit we can do is very little that we can do, even though with the best wishes, even with such a compassionate mind, even with such a loving mind. The help that we can do is so very little, very limited at this point, because we are also very unenlightened, just as they are unenlightened. And so therefore, in order to help them is much more profound way, and all sentient beings, not only all sentient beings, to liberate them from all the suffering and cause of suffering permanently in the most effective, beneficial way, then we have to go more unconfused. We have to be free from the delusions and karma ourselves. We have to be more enlightened. Only if we can achieve fully enlightenment, then we can help and benefit without any limitations. Without any limitations. And not only help them, not temporarily, but ultimately, most effective way, most skillful way, in a most beneficial way. If we can become fully enlightened and achieve that fully enlightened state. And once you understand that, once we realize that, then the wish to achieve that enlightened mind arises very naturally, very organically, not trying to fake it, not trying to make it, but that wish naturally, organically come naturally. And that state of the mind, the wish to achieve enlightenment, so that we can be the greatest benefit and help to each and every sentient being, without partiality, without limitations, and in the most beneficial way, in the most skillful way, So that is the bodhicitta mind. So that is the bodhicitta mind. So by engaging in this practice of meditations on the 5 point of equalizing, exchanging self with others, that give rise to that bodhicitta mind. That give rise to that bodhicitta mind. That induce that bodhicitta mind. And once we have developed that bodhicitta mind, then whoever you are, wherever you are, you become bodhisattvas. You are known as bodhisattvas, the child of the Buddhas. And that from that very moment, then everything that you engage in, any actions you engage in, then they become virtues. by the power of the bodhicitta mind, by the power of the bodhicitta mind. Then you really enter the bodhisattva path. Then you enter the first path of the bodhisattvas, the path of accumulations. Then we actually really enter the actual real bodhisattva path, the path of accumulations. Then we are in the really right path, So I think with that, maybe I might conclude today with the talk, but I'm going to leave some time for the questions. If anyone has any questions, comments, please feel open to really, share or comment or ask any questions regarding today's class or from previous class too.
Geshe Sherab, I have a question about something I read.
Okay.
So I was reading about the kayas, and I read that the Sambhoga kaya is the voice of the Buddha, can be said to be that. And I was wondering if the voice of the Buddha can be heard in the sutras and in our thinking. Could you answer that for me?
I'm not 100% sure, okay, if I can answer that questions. I know, first of all, in certain teachings, in some, the way they explain can be a slightly different, and the way it's presented, so if you, just like, in the sometime with the three refuge, you can relate with one, the Buddha's body being a Sangha, the speech or the voice being the Dharma, and his mind being the Buddha, so in terms of refuge. Sometimes the three kayas are also explained in terms of that way, so the voice being the Sambhoga kaya, the body being the Nirmana kaya, and then the mind being the Dharma kaya, and so that can be, sometimes it can be explained in that within the one kaya or within the one Buddha, you can see all of them, because Sambhoga kaya and Nirvana kayas are the form bodies. That is from the Buddha's wisdom kaya mind. Then from that wisdom mind or enlightened wisdom mind, then they manifest in that form to benefit and help other sentient beings through the teachings. They transform into that, manifest in that form. And so Sambhoga Kaya is the manifestation, that wisdom Kaya, that is transformed or manifested in that form to benefit sentient beings. The way the Buddha benefits sentient beings is by showing the path. And that showing the path comes through the voice, from the speech. And so therefore, that can be related with that, with the Sambhoga Kaya in that way, when you relate with that. And and then, of course, not only through the speech, then, of course, just as our body can help other sentient beings, not only talking, but from others, can help other sentient beings from with our body. Same way, Nirmana Kaya, then from the Sambhoga Kaya, then for certain sentient beings who doesn't have access to the Sambhoga Kaya, then they manifest in the Nirmana Kaya to help and benefit. And so I think that is, so sometimes it can be kind of explained that way, Buddha's speech being Sambhoga Kaya, the body being Nirvana Kaya, and his mind being the Dharma Kaya wisdom. So I think that is probably, that might be the what it was. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any, okay.
Geshe-la, Heather has a question.
Yes, please.
Hi, Geshe-la. Thank you, Mary. When I do the Tonglen, it's not surprisingly, it's very easy for people that I have affection for, and it's not difficult for people that I feel neutral toward. And it's actually not difficult. For example, if somebody, drives in front of me in traffic, it's not hard to do. There are, on a personal level, there's someone in my life who causes great harm to me through their actions. And when I try to do this, it feels like I'm not being kind to myself. And that why would I give this person, you understand, I don't have to explain more. And sometimes also with like someone who's in a position of power that's proactively harming someone, that I understand that they have Buddha nature like I do and want the same things as I do, but it feels like I'm not being kind to myself if I'm giving, you see, so I don't know how to work with that because obviously that's my limitation right now. And I don't know what to do about that.
First of all, I think if we can have compassion on those people, you are being compassionate to yourself. That we have to understand. Forgiving other persons, forgiving yourself. It's not that person's. Actually, it doesn't make any difference for that person's whether you forgive or not. But what really makes its difference to yourself. If you forgive it, then you can let it go. All the grudges, all the hard feeling, all the bad feelings, you don't hold anymore when you are able to forgive that. So it really helps you more than the other persons when you forgive it. Same thing when you are able to feel compassion on that person more than that person, actually it helps yourself. You don't have any hard feeling. Instead, you have a nice feeling for them. So when you have it, instead of a hard feeling, when you have nice feeling to them, then it's actually really more than that person is really immediately, it really helps your mind and yourself. And so I think maybe you have to change that perceptions, or by doing that, I'm helping them. Or not me, but by doing them, actually, I'm helping myself more than themselves.
Yeah.
Because that is how a lot of time we think, why should I forgive him or her when he or she has done such and such and such? But actually, when you forgive them, more than that person is really that make difference to you, then because you are able to let go of all the hard feeling, and same with the compassions. So I think we have to change that perception is more actually, and so maybe you try to see it and work with that and see whether that helps.
Yeah.
Or not, I think that just by changing that perceptions and then trying to do the practice with that perceptions, and another way of seeing is that can be helpful is by doing Tonglen practice, whether it's the individual, whether it's as a leaders who create a lot of harms, does a lot of harm by their actions, behavior to a lot of peoples or sentient beings. If we can see, by taking all their suffering and cause of suffering on myself, if they have no more suffering and cause of suffering, they will be more compassionate and more kind. And if I can give them all the love, compassion, all the happiness, they will be better persons.
Right.
And so therefore, doing that practice, make them better persons. To become better persons, instead of being harmful, they will be more helpful to the world.
Yeah.
And so again, also understanding that, having that understanding can also, because sometimes if you say, why should I reduce the pain of my enemy, you know? Why should I reduce the pain of my enemy? Why should I wish him all the good things, you know? Well, you know, if your enemy is happy and in a positive state of mind, that, you know, he or she will not hurt or harm other people, you know. Mostly they do that because when they are suffering, they themselves are ignorant, they themselves are in one of those state of minds. So to understand that also can be helpful in when we are doing this practice.
Yeah.
So if you can take those two considerations and see, and then apply and see whether that make any difference when you try to do meditation Tonglen next time, with whomever you have more difficulty now, and with that whether that makes any difference. Maybe that should make a little difference, but I don't know. So you try and see it.
Okay. Thank you, Geshe-la. I'll
Yeah.
try.
And if it doesn't work, then next time you can blame me. Any other questions? Yeah, I think here there is one. I don't know what the literally one hear the voice of Buddha. I think that was related to last questions. Yeah. Okay. Anyone questions? We still have a couple of minutes if you have questions. If not, then we do the dedications. Yeah, then we can share the dedication prayer. Maybe we can do the Shantidevas. Yeah. May all beings everywhere plagued by the suffering of body and mind obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtues of my merit. May no living creature suffer.
Commit
May
evil,
no
whatever fault,
belittle
may no one
mind and
be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil find rest.
May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sound. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored and finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drink. May the poor find wealth. Those who weep with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May there be timely rains, bountiful harvest, and may all medicine be effective and wholesome prayer bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be free from their ailment, whatever disease they are in the world. May they never occur again. May the frightening cease to be afraid. Those bound be free. May those powerless find power. And may people think of benefiting each other for as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain. Until then, may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you, Geshe-la.